He didn't expect anyone to be watching. Not the students. Not the parents. Not the staff sweeping quietly in the corner. The dojo was loud, echoing with laughter. But the laughter wasn't kind, because in the center stood Gavin Hart, a celebrated white martial arts black belt, smirking as he pointed at the black janitor mopping the back wall. "Hey," Gavin said loudly, "you want to fight?" "Just for fun. Let's show these kids what happens when a cleaner steps into a real ring." The room went still. A few students snickered. Someone pulled out a phone. And the janitor, Marcus Reed, slowly lifted his eyes. No anger, no fear. Just a look Gavin had never seen before. A look that made the entire dojo fall silent. Because Marcus wasn't just a cleaner. He was something else entirely. Stay with this story. What happens next will shock you, humble you, and change how you judge people forever. Marcus Reed had worked at the Hartfield Dojo for 3 years. Quiet, consistent, invisible to most. Every morning he arrived before sunrise, cleaning sweat-soaked mats, fixing torn gloves, tightening loose floorboards no one else noticed. He spoke little, kept to himself, and carried a calmness that people mistook for weakness. But today, that calmness was being tested. Gavin Hart, the owner's son, a flashy black belt raised on trophies and privilege, had returned from a regional tournament, hungry for attention. He loved performing. He loved showing off. And more than anything, he loved having an audience that clapped when he belittled others. He'd never paid Marcus a full sentence of respect. Maybe a yo mop guy. Maybe a clean that again. Nothing more. To him, Marcus was part of the background, a shadow, a broom with arms. But to the kids training in that dojo, Marcus was different. He always gave them a thumbs up, always had extra tape when theirs broke, always noticed when a child was struggling and quietly placed a cold bottle of water beside them. They didn't know his story. They didn't know he once held a life far from cleaning floors, just that he was kind, patient, and somehow steady. The tension began when Gavin loudly mocked a 9-year-old boy for punching like a grandma. The boy's eyes watered. His mother looked helpless. Marcus saw it. And that's when Gavin noticed Marcus watching, and suddenly needed to prove something. "Yo, cleaner," he called out. "Think you can do better? Come show us. Fight me. Right now." Parents froze. Kids stared. The owner, Mr. Hart, wasn't there. No authority to stop it. Marcus gently set his mop aside. People whispered, "He's going to get hurt. This is embarrassing. Why is the janitor even entertaining this?" But Marcus didn't move like a man stepping into humiliation. He moved like someone who'd stepped into rings far more dangerous than this one. And Gavin had no idea what kind of storm he had just awakened. The room fell silent as Marcus stepped onto the mat, his old, worn sneakers squeaking softly against the polished floor. Gavin grinned, stretching his shoulders like a predator warming up before a kill. His friends grabbed their phones. Parents whispered nervously. Kids peeked from behind their gloves. This wasn't a match. This was a spectacle Gavin wanted to win. "Don't worry," Gavin smirked. "I'll go easy on you. Wouldn't want to break the guy who takes out our trash." A few people laughed, not because it was funny, but because humiliation always makes the wrong people bold. Marcus didn't respond. He stood still, too still, like someone measuring the floor, the air, the rhythm of a storm before it breaks. Gavin moved first. A quick jab, fast, clean, loud enough to impress the crowd. Marcus barely tilted his head, letting the punch pass his cheek by an inch. Some gasps, some confused stares. Gavin blinked. Lucky. He threw another one. Marcus exhaled, turning ever so slightly, letting Gavin's fist cut through empty space. Then a third, a fourth, a fifth. Every punch missed. Not by luck, by precision. Marcus wasn't dodging late. He was dodging early. Gavin stepped back annoyed. "Stop running. Fight me." But Marcus hadn't moved his feet once. A few kids noticed. "Mom, he's not scared," one whispered. "It's like he knows what's coming." Gavin charged with a roundhouse kick, his signature, the kind that won him medals, the kind he bragged about. Marcus dipped under it with the calm of a man ducking, under a branch while on a morning walk. Phones stopped recording out of shock. Everyone wanted to watch this with their own eyes. "What's wrong, Gavin?" Someone muttered. "He can't touch him." Embarrassment flushed over Gavin's face. His ego cracked. He lunged forward again, this time with speed, power, desperation. A flurry of punches. Wild, loud, sloppy. Marcus lifted his forearm just once, redirecting the entire sequence as if brushing off dust from his sleeve. And that's when Gavin snapped. He shoved Marcus hard. "I fight back! You hear me? Fight!" Marcus steadied himself, still calm. "I don't fight for entertainment," he said quietly. "I fight for survival." The dojo froze at the seriousness of his voice. Gavin laughed too loudly, masking fear. "What survival? You mop floors, man." But the older parents began exchanging looks. They'd seen movements like Marcus's before, in documentaries, in old military footage, in stories of men who stayed silent because their past was louder than words. Gavin kicked again, high, reckless. This time, Marcus caught his leg. Not aggressively, not violently, just firmly. And with one controlled twist, he set Gavin back down like placing a child who'd wandered too far. The room exhaled at once. Gavin staggered back, humiliated. What are you?" he stuttered. Before Marcus could answer, the dojo door opened. Mr. Hart, the owner, walked in, holding coffee, eyebrows raised. What on earth is happening? Everyone spoke at once. Phones pointed at Gavin. Whispers filled the room. Gavin tried to regain control. "Dad, this janitor, he challenged me." "That's not true," a mother yelled. "He provoked him. He called him trash. He bullied the kids all morning." Marcus said nothing. He didn't need to. Mr. Hart looked around the room, reading the atmosphere like a man who'd been a coach long enough to know when a lie was cracking open. "Marcus?" he asked gently. Marcus bowed his head. "He asked me to fight. I refused violence. I only defended myself." Gavin scoffed. "He's lying, he's just a cleaner." And that single sentence, that single drop of arrogance, was the spark that ignited everything. "Gavin," Mr. Hart said slowly, almost trembling, "do you know who Marcus is?" Everyone leaned forward. Gavin frowned. "A janitor." Mr. Hart closed his eyes. Marcus Reed was once the national lightweight champion. 3 years undefeated. He trained special forces in close contact defense. He only retired because he saved a teammate and took injuries that never healed right. The dojo fell into absolute stillness. The kids looked at Marcus with awe, the parents with respect. And Gavin felt the floor vanish beneath him. He had just challenged a legend, a man who walked away from glory to live quietly, a man he had mocked for years. But the revelation wasn't over, because Marcus lifted his head slowly, ready to reveal the part of his story no one had ever known. Gavin's mouth fell open, his face draining of color. A national champion? A special forces trainer? A man who survived battles most people only saw in movies? But what shook him the most was the way Marcus stood. Quiet, steady, soft-spoken, not a man trying to dominate. A man trying not to hurt anyone. Mr. Hart stepped closer. "Son, you didn't challenge a janitor. You challenged a man who left violence behind because he'd seen too much of it." The room held its breath. Gavin swallowed hard. "Well, if he was so great, what's he doing?" Marcus finally lifted his eyes, and the whole dojo fell silent. He didn't need a speech. His expression said it all. Pain, memory, a lifetime of battles he didn't want. He took one slow step toward Gavin. Not threatening, not intimidating. Just a man ready to tell the truth. "When I was 29, Marcus said softly, "I was supposed to compete internationally. I had scouts watching me. I had a future laid out, but my brother, he got sick. Everyone leaned in. I quit everything. Sold everything. Worked any job I could take, construction, night shifts, cleaning, just to pay for his treatment." A mother put her hand to her chest. Gavin's friends stepped back, guilt filling their faces. "In the last tournament I fought," Marcus's voice tightened. "I fought injured. Broke 2 ribs in the first round. I still finished the match, Not because of pride, because I needed the prize money to buy him one more week of medication. Mr. Hart closed his eyes, heartbroken. Marcus continued, voice now a trembling whisper. People cheered for me back then. Cameras flashed. Reporters lined up. But when my brother died, all that glory vanished. No one cared anymore. I was just a grieving man with bills and no strength left. So I came here, not to fight, to live quietly, to stay away from pain. The dojo was a chamber of stunned silence. Marcus turned to Gavin. You asked me to fight you for fun. But I don't find violence fun. I don't find humiliation fun. I don't find cruelty fun. Gavin looked down, chest rising and falling too fast. Marcus's voice deepened. You think strength is how hard you can hit. Real strength is knowing you can destroy someone and choosing not to. The crowd gasped as those words sliced through the air. Gavin's face contorted with shame, but pride still clung to him like a dying flame. I didn't know, he stammered. You didn't ask, Marcus replied gently. Then something unexpected happened. Mr. Hart stepped aside and addressed the crowd, pointing at a large framed photo on the wall. One nobody ever noticed because it sat high, above the training schedule. A dusty, faded picture of a young champion holding a trophy. The nameplate read, Marcus Reed, National Lightweight Champion. A child whispered, That's him. Gavin's legs weakened. And then Mr. Hart dropped the final hammer. You know who trained me when I was a rookie? Hart said. That man. That janitor. He taught me my first defensive block. He taught me discipline, humility, respect. The dojo shook with shock. Gavin looked at Marcus like he was seeing a ghost. I thought you were nobody, Gavin whispered. Marcus leaned forward slightly. There is no such thing as nobody. Tears welled in several eyes. Gavin's voice cracked. Why? Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Marcus shrugged softly. Because it doesn't matter who I was. It matters who I am now. Then Marcus did something powerful. He took off his worn gloves, walked to Gavin, extended his hand. Not as a fighter, as a man offering mercy. The entire dojo froze. No one even breathed. Gavin stared at the hand trembling in front of him. A hand that had broken bones. A hand that had lifted trophies. A hand that had buried a brother. A hand that had mopped floors without complaint. Slowly, shaking. Gavin reached out, but Marcus gently pulled his hand back before Gavin touched it. No, he said softly. Not until you mean it. Gavin blinked, confused. What? Apologies without change are empty. The room buzzed with murmurs. Marcus looked into his eyes. Deep, steady, unwavering. I'll shake your hand when you understand what respect is. When you treat everyone here with dignity. When you stop using strength to intimidate and start using it to protect. Gavin's lip trembled. He broke. Tears fell down his cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm really sorry. Marcus nodded slowly, finally extending his hand again. This time, Gavin gripped it with both hands, knees buckling, pride shattering, heart opening. The dojo erupted in applause. Some cried. Some hugged their kids, because they had all just witnessed something they didn't expect. Not a fight, but a transformation. A boy becoming a man. A fighter becoming a protector. A janitor becoming a legend again. And Marcus? He stood tall, not because of the past he carried, but because of the future he had just changed. The hospital room was quiet, lit only by a soft amber glow from the lamp resting near the bed. Machines hummed, steady, calm, rhythmic. Gloria sat beside Marcus, her hands gently folded, her eyes tired but kind. The night had been long, yet she stayed. She had stayed every night since the fire. Marcus stirred, his breath shaky, his shoulders tightly bandaged. Every movement reminded him of the flames, how close they came, how hot they burned, how the world had shrunk into red chaos. But then he felt a hand on his arm, a steady one, a reassuring one. You're safe, Marcus, Gloria whispered. You saved lives, and now, it's our turn to stand by yours. Marcus blinked hard. He wasn't used to being cared for. His whole life had been a parade of responsibilities. working 3 jobs, meeting deadlines, sweeping floors while others walked past him as if he was invisible. But here he was, the poorest man in the company, being looked after by the richest woman in the city. For the first time in years, he let himself breathe. A week later, the entire staff gathered in the main hall. The lights dimmed. The large digital screen flickered on. A logo appeared, the Marcus Hill Employee Support Program. Gasps spread through the room. The announcer continued. Fully funded by CEO Gloria Kensington. Marcus, standing in the center with his arm in a sling, froze in disbelief. Gloria walked forward, her expression steady with pride. We built this company on ambition, intelligence, and innovation. But we forgot something. We forgot humanity. Marcus reminded us, reminded me, that heroism doesn't come from wealth, title, or privilege. It comes from character. The audience stood silent. She continued, "This program will provide emergency financial support, medical coverage, education scholarships, and housing assistance. Beginning today." The hall erupted in applause, some shocked, some moved, some even crying. Marcus's hands trembled. He had never been applauded before. He had never been seen before. Later, when the applause faded and the crowd dispersed, Marcus approached Gloria quietly. I don't know how to thank you," he murmured. "You already did," Gloria said softly, "by showing me what real courage looks like." He looked down. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes," she replied, "you did. You acted when most people freeze. You risked everything for people who didn't even know your name. And because of you, this entire company, no, this entire city, has learned something they should have understood long ago." She stepped closer, her voice firm. "Dignity has nothing to do with status. True greatness can wear a suit or a janitor's uniform." Marcus swallowed hard. His heart felt heavy, full, grateful. The next weeks brought a quiet transformation. Employees who once brushed past him now greeted him with genuine respect. Some apologized. Others asked about his recovery. The man once hidden in the background had become a symbol, a reminder of humility, resilience, and unseen value. But the biggest change came from Gloria herself. She began visiting every department without warning. No cameras, no assistants, no PR teams. She spoke to security guards about their families. She asked cleaning staff about their dreams. She listened to the cafeteria workers talk about long shifts and tired backs. For the first time in years, she wasn't just running a company. She was leading one. The media eventually caught wind of Marcus's heroism, but Gloria refused interviews. "This story isn't about me," she said. "It's about the people who keep this world moving." Still, the story spread, quietly, naturally, organically. And as it did, something shifted in workplaces across the region. Bosses started asking more questions. Employees stopped ignoring the people sweeping their floors. Respect, real respect, became part of conversations that had long forgotten it. Marcus, meanwhile, healed slowly, but he healed. He returned to work months later, not as a janitor, not as a symbol, but as a respected member of a community that finally understood his worth. One evening, while walking home under the golden streetlights, he whispered to himself, Maybe life didn't forget me after all." And somewhere in her high-rise office, Gloria looked out at the city with a quiet smile, knowing that sometimes the greatest changes begin in the smallest, most unexpected places, with the people no one thought were heroes.